Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another great opportunity for some of our young musicians. And this time we have a wonderful artist from Toronto and to work with some of our advanced orchestra cellists. Before that, I'd like to just mention that in a couple of weeks, we're working on a flute class with one of the artists. And that would hopefully involve all the flute players and advanced, intermediate, and concert band. And we also have a showing of our virtual concert with all the groups on Saturday. Uh, what day is Saturday? I believe that's the 7th. No, that's the 6th at 7 p.m. So you'll get to see all the work that the kids have done this past during the lockdown. So, and at the last 10 minutes of this hour, we'll have a question and answer. If you have any questions, please go ahead and chat, do the chat, and we'll get to it. We'll try to get to all your questions if time allows. So we are joined by Mr. Joseph Johnson, who is the principal cellist of the Toronto Symphony since 2009, and he's played the Dvorak Cello Concerto with the Toronto Symphony and the other major works like the Tchaikovsky Rococo Variation and other orchestras, and he's well traveled and a wonderful teacher as well. Teaches at the University of Toronto, and we're so fortunate to have him here with us. And of course, thundering applause. We welcome Mr. Joseph Johnson. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. And you are, of course, in Toronto.
I'm in Toronto, where I've
Yeah.
been since March 15th. When I was actually in San Francisco. I was playing guest principal cello with the San Francisco Symphony,
Right.
and we were about to go on a huge 3-week tour to Carnegie Hall in Europe, and it was going to be Michael Tilson Thomas's last big, hurrah tour as music director, and then the world shut down, and so I booked myself on Air Canada and got across the border just to get
Yeah. But I'm sure you're still busy online. Uh,
online. Yeah, it's a whole new world. So
yeah, it is. It is. I mean, especially for myself and my colleagues here in San Diego, it's such a strange thing. But I'm glad we are finding time to help our young musicians that their learning doesn't really stop. So we want to give them as much as we can. So
absolutely.
from here, why don't we bring our cellists? We have Dylan Rank to please meet Joseph Johnson. We have Lynette Dong, Max Tao, Nicholas Morales, Josephine Kim, and Martin Gaspar, Miggy. So put your cameras back on, and I'll leave you, and I'll come back for any questions that the kids may have for you. Enjoy, guys.
Hey everybody, I hope you guys are doing okay during all of this and practicing hard. And I've actually been enjoying the practice time afforded me, which as a professional you don't have as much time to practice as you did when I was in school. So that's really fun. But I'm here to sort of, I guess, talk to you about Scheherazade a little bit. And I'm happy to also just sort of talk about general cello playing, if that's the direction you guys want to go as well. So this can be very open-ended. Feel free to just jump in and answer questions and talk. And I see that a lot of you have cellos with you. So I'll try to get to everybody at some point. Just on a show of hands, have any of you guys played Scheherazade before? Okay, awesome. But you guys have listened to it, right? Yeah. Okay, so this is definitely one of my favorite pieces of all time. I love this piece. It's so lush. It has everything you can possibly want. It gives you everything, like physically, emotionally. There's a story. It's beautiful. And the cello part is amazing. It's a little hard, but it's not impossible. And when you're done playing it, you just feel really good about the piece and about being able to play cello. So I wonder if maybe I could just, do you guys all have the music in front of you? Yes? Okay. Maybe I can just start and we'll just sort of do a really quick cliff notes going through the part. And then maybe I'll just have like everybody play a little excerpt. Does that sound okay? And you can choose which one you want to play. I won't force that on you. It's going to be impossible for everybody to play together because of the internet. So, so if you look on page 1, and I apologize, I know that my audio sounds terrible. So we were trying to hook up an external mic and it failed miserably. So we'll do our best. But I would say in these arpeggios to use about 2/3 of your bow. And just really legato. No, nothing. Just, you know, you're on the sea. You're chilling out on the boat, and everything is fine and calm and beautiful. And there's birds and there's the sun, and it's just a great part. I think if you use your whole bow. For me, there's too much air in the sound. You just don't need that much bow for this. You want this nice glorified cello section sound coming out. And then you just don't have to work hard. Slow the bow down a little bit and, you know, maybe just go out to here, I would say. And that's going to be a theme in this piece because it's a very lush piece. And so we want a very focused sound at all times. So that's kind of the first page. If you look at letter E on page 3, this is a very exciting moment. And you'll be tempted to use your whole bow, but again, I would challenge you not to. So I'm still really going out here, but then you can really dig into the cello, and you don't have to travel so much. Okay. I think I wrote that in. Is that? Did you guys see that? Is that in your part that I sent you? Okay, cool. Same thing at letter H. Same exact concept. So just use 2/3 of your bow, but really slow down the bow speed and just sink into the cello. And don't release any bow. Don't release when you get to a bow change. All spinning sound out all the time, okay? That's about it for the first movement. In the second, yeah, let's take a look at page 6. And just this rhythm at the top of letter D. So everybody has it together. It's like 1, 2, 1, and then 1, 2, 1. So really exact. You want to get that 16th note and then the triplets. 1, 2, 1. Da, 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 da. It's kind of fun to play it once everybody's doing it. At F, this is a great spot where the whole string section is pizzicatoing in the exact same rhythm. And then there's all of these wind solos that are happening over it. And this is where the principal cello and the concertmaster and the principal of the other strings really need to kind of keep each other. So, and you want to keep this rhythm. And then changing at the same time. So that's something, it shouldn't sound like, it should sound like a drum. underneath, okay? And that's where, if you're in the section and you can't hear as well, follow the principal who will hopefully be doing a little bit of bobbing every once in a while. And it's just kind of a feel thing. It's a great effect when everybody's playing this together. This little spot down here after H. So it's just mezzo forte, and really there's not a lot going on. One of the nice things about Rimsky-Korsakov is he's a great orchestrator. So you don't really have to work hard to get the main part out. So just play mezzo forte. And then here, you're going to come back to the middle and don't use too much bow. Sense? Very, very rhythmic, extremely rhythmic, and I would recommend practicing that with the metronome because it's quite exposed here, and that's another great effect. All of these things, like at O and all through this. Sorry, not at O. When you have the all in the frog. All right. Drama, lots of vibrato, big time sustained. I don't know if that sounds horrible over the internet, so I apologize. But that's a great moment. Okay, third movement is really where the cello section can melt everybody in the audience. So at letter A, so those little 16th notes, you're going to be tempted to rush. And because I think, what is there, 8 of you? Don't do it. So, this is like the love story. This is an incredibly tender moment. There's no anxiety. There's nothing, you know, it's just very, very innocent in a way, if that makes sense. Always sustaining through the bow changes. Does that make sense? And then what's really important is this feels really great to play on the cello. And you're going to be tempted to like go nuts with your vibrato, with your amazing vibrato, your cello vibrato. But if everybody plays with their own amazing cello vibrato, it actually doesn't sound good. So this is where you need to sort of adapt a cello section vibrato. So you're going to give me like 80% of your best vibrato. It's still going to be beautiful, but it has to be blended. And if the 8 of you can play this all like so together, it's just the most beautiful sound, right? And you don't have to force. There's nothing covering you except these beautiful soft chords underneath. So it's definitely, you know, like mezzo piano at the most. And just enjoy this as a section. When you get to the end, where it says Sul A, this is something you guys can play around with. In Toronto, in my section, I have half of the section played on the A string, and I have half the section played on the D string. I think it sounds weird. It's before letter B. It's where sometimes this is not the best range in the cello. It's not very beautiful, but also this lacks power. So you're kind of in the middle of this conundrum. So maybe like the outside players could try playing on the A string, the inside players could play on the D string, and you get this sort of combination. Dylan, you can kind of play around with this and see what you like. Maybe you all try it on the A string, you all try it on the D string, and just see what works. Where it says gliss, just do a very tasteful one, or if you're feeling really adventurous, you can go up the D string, which I definitely do. I admit it. I just think that sounds so weird to me with the open A. It's just, it's not expressive at all. So again, kind of lots of decisions to make here as a section, but have fun with it. It's really beautiful. Also at the end, after letter O, this cello section solo in page 13. So I would stay on the A string. Just be careful that your up bows are very light, because in this whole passage you've got 4 beats on a down bow and 2 beats on an up bow, and so you're going to want to kind of race to the frog, which you have to do, but you got to lighten up, otherwise it'll sound like right. And then this last part after P is a cello section solo, right? So I changed the bowing that's in there. It kind of depends on how much time the conductor takes. But I just felt like it was too clunky. So and just make sure there's a nice lift. Lift. So we get that. Fourth movement, letter G, is always a little bit of a tongue twister. Again, you don't need to play this super loud. Just try to get back to the frog middle section as much as you can. But very expressive, I think, there. Letter K, just have fun, and then especially when it goes to letter L. Really just... But try not to let it snap too much. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes we get on the C string and we kind of like... And that's not the effect we're going for. So we're going for like really deep, low cello. M is so much fun. I love this section so much because everybody's kind of going crazy. You really want to stay at the frog. So really nasty. I mean, you could like twangy open A string as much as you want, and all of it. That's really hard. But just really stay at the frog. And I would encourage you to practice that because it feels awesome if you're really nailing it. It's just it's one of those spots. The next page, page 16. This is also one of my favorite spots at the top of the page where it says sul ponticello. So just race out to the tip and get as close to the bridge as you can. So and I would even play it like mezzo forte and make the conductor have you play softer, because it's kind of like this grimy sort of sound that needs to come out of the orchestra a little bit. So maybe put a plus sign. I like to use plus and minus underneath for dynamics. Start it a little bit louder and then make him give you the hand to have you guys play softer, because it's a great moment. Same situation in letter U that we talked about before, just to be watch out on the up bows. Be very calm. Okay, the next page is the hard part. This is just hard. And it's hard because you're playing it with the bass section, and you really want it to be like super together. So I would suggest that you just play this all in the frog, mid. And then here, don't need a lot of bow for that, right? It gets faster and faster too. But it's great. I would recommend at W, I think I put it in your part, to stop with the hook bowing. It's just too hard and it's too fast. So you do the shoe shine bowing. You're just kind of throwing your bow. I think I put that in the spot where you start with 2 downs and then it's all separate. Your bow can actually be really flying. And you'll get a lot more sound of it's too nice if you hook it, I think. So just experiment with that. But we all do it in every orchestra that I've played this. Finally now at page 18, when you're here. That's where you can use your whole bow. Just let it all out. And just like in the cello, no air in the sound, but just, you know, go crazy. Your arm should be really tired at the end of this section, which is on page 19. This is always really hard, this sul ponticello. You definitely want the first 2 measures to be together. So, because there's nothing else happening in the orchestra there. So really important for the first stand to kind of lead this. Go right on the bridge, as ugly a sound as you can make. Then after that, it won't be together, so don't even worry about it. Especially the ending before the long note. It's kind of like this big in every way, dynamically, tempo. So don't worry about trying to fit in the exact triplet. Just start playing really soft, so it doesn't matter. And then you'll play that last note. Finally, this last section when you're playing with the basses, more at the tip. So you want to get this very misty, foggy kind of sound. And then pizzicatos like this and the end of the first movement. And this is something that all string sections kind of have to do in professional orchestras because it's really hard to play pizzas together. These first 2 pizzas will be together, then there's a cutoff, and then the winds and the pizzas come together. So just wait for the first wind player to play and then play that pizz. Usually it's a high wind player, but there should never be a string player playing before the winds. Does that make sense? There was 2 spots that I wrote in the piece where you can divide to hit some pizzicatos. So just check that out. Like the outside keeps playing the arco, and the inside gets ready to play the pizzicato on the next bar. It's just so that you don't have to race from bow to pizzicato, and potentially drop your bow or not play together. So I know that was like super crazy fast, and I'm sorry, but we only have an hour. So can I hear something from you guys each, maybe from this piece, or does that work? Should we start? I have like the squares going. I've just heard Dylan a bit. Nicholas, do you want to play?
Sure.
Okay.
Where should I play?
Well, why don't you pick a spot? How about yeah, just pick a spot. You could play the first page, a little bit of the first page.
Okay, I'll play the Allegro non troppo.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. That's great. That's great. So one thing that I like to do, and because this happens all the time in this piece, especially in the first movement, I like to vibrate the very first note of all of these measures.
All right.
Sounds weird if you vibrate all of them, right? It sounds
Right.
weird. But definitely. And again, this is only piano, Nicholas. So just start a little bit bigger and then just come down. And then also watch the G sharp in the fourth. Yeah. Also, I would suggest here, try not to move your arms so much, okay? So I would suggest using more of your wrist.
All right.
And let the arm come with you. So in an extreme example, I could play this whole thing without moving my elbow. And that would be weird because now I don't have any, right? But I think if you get this too involved, it's the wrong kind of sound, right? So maybe. So just let your elbow come along for the ride, but don't make it the driver.
All right.
It's a more focused sound already, even through Zoom, I think.
All right.
Yeah, so just even in all of these, make sure to have a healthy combination of arm, but also your wrist.
All right.
Because that gives you a little bit more control. Great, I'm so sorry I'm going so fast.
All good.
But that's what happens. So, Martin.
Yes.
How's it going?
Pretty good so far. It's been very entertaining.
Okay, good. Would you like to play a spot?
Sure. I guess I'll choose a section from movement 3.
Okay, and maybe everybody who's coming, pick a spot now that you want to play. Okay, movement 3.
How about the pickup from A?
Okay, sounds good. That's great. So the audio isn't the best on my end. I'm so sorry, but everything looks great to me. Can you just try it a little bit quicker? So you definitely want to think of this in 2. So anytime you see, by the way, a 6/8 time signature, you always want it to be in 2. So sort of like a nice spring wind that's like 3 miles an hour, right?
Sure.
Just try it again. Great. That's really beautiful. That's really nice. I'm going to be like really picky, but be careful at that we don't get the slide going down, right? So that's what you guys know the cellist Stephen Isserlis? He's a really great British cellist. Anyway, he calls those transportation slides. And you should only slide when you want to slide, but not just to get somewhere, right? So it's very pure. So we're not too slidey quite yet. When we get here, then we can deliver the goods, so to speak, right? But I think here, let's try to just be very pure. And then lastly, at the very end, do you see those little dots underneath the D and the C sharp?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's this weird sort of short but in legato marking, but we definitely need a little bit of space before the C sharp from the whole section, okay? And one thing that you did really nicely, and I just want to point out to everybody else, is anytime you have grace notes, they're not fast, they're melodic, right? So if everybody does that, nobody in the audience will hear it. But if everybody in the cello section does that, it's so glorious. So bravo, beautiful, that sounded great. And I liked your bow usage too. So, and it sounded nice and light. So awesome, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Darius.
Hello.
Hey.
So I would like to do the first movement starting from letter E.
Okay. Okay, good, Darius. That's great. You know what? Everything you're doing with the right hand is perfect. So exactly where you should be. I can tell you're like into the cello and everything like that. I really want you to feel these silent beats though. Yum, ba-da-da-dee, 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 right? Sometimes you're leaving a little bit early. So right now in your head, have a subdivision like yum, ba-dee-da-dee, ba-da-da-dee, ba-da-da-dee, ba-da-da. And then really, really smooth on the way down. Can you slow it down just a little bit, like yum, ba-dee-da-dee, da-da, just for exact rhythm.
Okay.
silent beat now, mostly. Again, what I was talking to Nicholas about is I think if you can use a little bit more of your wrist. Right now it's all arm.
Okay.
And that's hard to do when you're going across all 4 strings this fast, right? So, especially after the long note. I don't know if you guys can see my wrists. But I'm really using my wrist for that. I know I'm getting like super nerdy, but for that second note after the tie, wrist, dee da da da, wrist, da 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 da. And then your arm will kind of go with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can you try it one more time? Yeah, okay, so it's already like, it's already way better. Does it feel better?
Yeah, it feels definitely better.
It just feels a little bit less stuck now.
Yeah.
I still kind of feel like you're leaving a little early.
Okay.
So just metronome this. Yum ba dee da dee ba da 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 ba dee da da ba da da da. And then also what's happening is because you're leaving a little early, then you're kind of rushing. And you don't have to. This is actually a really awesome technical exercise for bow control. This could be like a popper etude. So ya ba dee da dee ba da 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 to create like a really consistent sound, but also being nimble in the right hand. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm so sorry these are also short. Max, how's it going?
Good.
Good. What do you got for me?
Second movement, arco.
Okay. Good. Good. That's really great. So, do you see those lines over the eighth notes?
Yeah.
So, what do you think those mean?
It's like, I don't know.
Okay. So, whenever you see so if you see a dot over a note, that means short, right?
Yeah.
So, if you see a line over a note, that means long. So, he's just basically telling us that he wants these very long. It's not too athletic here. It gets more athletic later. But here it can be a little bit more charming. Can you just try that? So just think a little bit more lush. Yeah, that's fantastic. I think we need some different bowings in there, but we'll get them in there. Last thing from all of you with this phrase, be careful not to accent, and maybe Dylan, you can just hear this when you guys finally get together, hopefully that's soon, is that we don't accent the downbeat of each third measure. So, but it's kind of coming away. Okay, and it's easy to accent that note, but we really shouldn't. Does that make sense? So just think of a little dim going into all of those E's. And as a section, when that happens, it's really cool. What you can do, because, okay, now I'm gonna get super nerdy on you, Max. But if you notice in the third measure, there's no line on that first E. So that gives you license to come back to the frog, because you could kind of feel like you were getting stuck at the tip, right? So what happened? And you have just enough time to move your bow a little bit back towards the frog, right? So. There, you're already there. So. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
You want to try it?
sure.
Yeah, that's it. And lastly, just because I'm a really picky person, I love the dim that you're doing into the E, but it doesn't mean it's not expressive. So it can still be expressive, but just a little bit less and a little shorter. So like just a tiny bit of vibrato on it.
All right.
Okay, nice. Bravo. Sounds great. Josephine.
Hi.
Hi.
Can I do A from movement 1?
Sure. Okay, I really almost could not hear you. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing the same thing. Is yes? I wonder if you can.
I don't know.
Can you get a little further away, maybe from the?
Oh,
Just try it.
like, okay, but like you can't see me.
That's
So,
okay.
Okay.
The first two notes sounded great.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Could you hear me?
Yeah, we could hear like 4 notes and then that was it. But
Really?
it actually sounded really good to me. It sounded super legato and with the right sound. I just can't hear you too much
Yeah.
or see you.
Okay.
But you have the right idea. I think it'd just be a little quicker. Again,
Okay.
a 6/4 time signature. It's a weird time signature, but we want to feel this in 2 rather than in 6. You want to try it one more time? Like ya da dee da 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 dee da da. Yeah, that sounds great. How is my audio quality? Is it
When you're playing or when you're talking?
when I'm playing?
I think
it's
it kind of disappears a little bit, but
Okay.
like when totally fine.
So one thing I was hearing a little bit and this is for everybody, when we have this, okay, I'll tell you a story. So you know the solo on the second page? Okay, Peter Ungen was my music director in Toronto Symphony when I got here. He was the former first violinist of this Tokyo String Quartet. Like, oh my God, amazing violinist, right? For his whole career. And he had to quit playing because he got focal dystonia in his pinky in his left hand. And then he started conducting. So total violin jock, right? So we get here, and I've played this before, like in 2 different orchestras before I got to Toronto. So we play Scheherazade, and you know, he's such a violinist. So he turned to me and he was like, and he has this British accent. He's like, Joe, you have to vibrate every note, even the middle one. Which of course I think sounds terrible on cello, but violins are all about like vibrating every note, right? So I would have to play. And it just, I feel like I'm, you know, walking around like this. But that's what he wanted. And so I always think of that when I hear this. And I think if you vibrate the second note too much, then it starts to sound a little bit distorted. The important notes are, and then, so just be careful that it's not equal, right? So we're not too, but, I think there can be vibrato on the middle note, but maybe not as much as the low note. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm sorry I couldn't hear you, but what I could hear, it sounded really good. And nice and legato and deep, and you went away. So, thank you. Okay, Lynette, your turn.
Can I play from the 4th movement?
Yes. Okay, you totally froze on us, unfortunately, but I could still work with that because I heard the first part. So any chance you can on this whole beginning of the 4th movement, you want to get back to the frog. Okay, so go back to the frog. So even after that A, come back. You have a moment of time to come back. And then the same thing. I would actually change that bowing, Dylan, by the way, to separate. Don't do the 2 ups. All of you can change that. But here, all of these trills, you should trill on your first finger. Okay? So just figure out how you're going to get there. Okay? But it's all in the frog. All of it is at the frog. This is kind of nice because the whole string section is playing this. So you're a little covered, but it's faster and you got to have a lot of attitude. Can you try the very opening again at whatever tempo you want, but really biting at the frog. Did we lose? Oh, there you are. Okay. Good. Do you have a down bow after that A?
Yeah.
Okay. So try that one. Lift and then go back. Yeah. Good. Try this once just for me. Okay, I'm hearing a little bit of separation before the C sharp. That's it. So I don't want to hear like yup up up up, right? But yup up up bum, right? Same thing. Just try those last two gestures. Yeah, that's it. So there, you kind of treat them as one gesture instead of two, right? I'm sorry your audio was kind of cutting out, but just stay in the frog. And again, this is a tricky spot. So slow it down with the metronome, like dee, 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 ba, 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 ba. I love practicing with the metronome. I discovered it late in life, unfortunately, but it's a great way to learn things a lot faster, and also kind of makes you play in rhythm if you listen to it. Okay, thank you for choosing that spot, actually, because that was really helpful. Just every time you have this stuff, race back to the frog. Okay? It'll make it a lot easier. Let the bow do the work for you. Okay. Martin. Oh, no, wait, not Martin. Max. And then Dylan.
Wait, what? I already played.
Oh, okay. My Windows totally messed up. Who hasn't played? Oh, Dylan hasn't played. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I did play earlier, but I haven't.
You did in front of your colleagues, so you know.
Yeah, of course. So I didn't really choose a spot because I sort of have my own spots already.
Okay.
Do you want to hear another solo?
Yeah. Let me hear the. Let's hear this one again.
Sure.
We can work on that a little bit more.
Okay.
Okay, good. So I'm gonna get really, because it sounds very good already, but this whole sort of section before is da da dun da da dun da da dun. You know, it's really dramatic, and then you just interrupt the whole orchestra. It's like I love this solo because it's just you just like take over, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of out of nowhere. Like, look at me. So, so I love the accent. Be careful on the change. Nothing, right?
Yeah.
We really need to feel that silent second beat. Right?
Yeah.
Don't be in a hurry. This is like total diva moment. Right?
Sure.
Yes. Much better. So one thing that I'm noticing is that on these shifts, your vibrato actually stops or slows down just a little bit, or on the bow changes. So just maybe work on that so that you can keep the vibrato going in the middle. Yeah. it still stops a little bit. So just work on that. That will actually be able to help you so it doesn't sound like two separate notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'm sorry over Zoom, I can't tell, but I would do a big dip here into this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to play the last solo at the very end of this movement?
Oh yeah, sure. But can I ask one more question of this?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, so when I do the bow change on the F, I feel like if I try too hard to make it quiet, it's harder to connect, obviously. So can I, by any chance, go like, sort of, not really, I don't want to say crescendo into it, but sort of keep the dynamic a little higher than, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I would sustain, definitely, but you're the secondary instrument at that point.
Okay, but I shouldn't back off too much on that, right?
No, I think I would back off here, but I wouldn't back off before there. I also think you don't go all the way into the frog for this change. It's harder to do a smooth bow change right at the frog. So maybe change. Yeah.
Okay.
One thing I mean, in the 3 seconds that I've watched and heard you play in before the class, that I've noticed with you is that you kind of like to race to the strings of your bow.
Okay.
And I would just challenge you to, you don't have to do that all the time, right?
Yeah.
Is just to kind of give yourself a break that, especially in a solo like this, you want really consistent bow speed.
Mm-hmm.
And that may mean that you don't have to use the whole bow or decide which parts of the bow that you want to use, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to just, can you play that last little?
Sure. Is that in the first movement?
It's in the second movement at the very end. Kind of comes out of nowhere.
No, I found it.
Yeah, so I think it can be way more introspective. This is the last remnants of this melody we're gonna hear.
Okay.
Because then things get really rowdy, right?
Mm.
So kind of like really kind of tempered.
So sort of take my time towards the end. Is that what you're saying?
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Good, and I would just sustain a little bit more at the bow change. A little more lush on the F sharp and then E. Yeah, that's really nice. But then I think this can have a little energy.
Mm-hmm.
Because underneath you is now, right?
Yeah.
So, so you kind of kick things off there.
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah. It's kind of like half and half.
Yeah.
You keep things going, but you're ending this whisper of a memory or something like that.
Okay.
It's a great connection solo. In a way, you come in the beginning of the movement and interrupt, and then at the end of the movement, you go away.
Yeah, I'm interrupted at the end.
It's kind of amazing. I mean, that's just like one of the many 8 gazillion nerdy things I love about this piece. So,
Okay.
so bravo, thank you guys for like playing and listening. listening to me blab, and it's a real pleasure to hear you guys. And I'm told that we can do some Q&A if you guys have any questions about anything. I'm listening. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions. You gotta have something.
How was your undergraduate experience as a cellist in college?
So as an undergrad, I'll tell you, I grew up in Chicago, and I was in the Chicago Youth Symphony when I was in high school. And then I went to Eastman and for my undergraduate and studied with Stephen Doan. And I loved it because I wanted to be away from home. I've been wanting to get away from home since I was a sophomore in high school. So I was really happy, and that's kind of when I really started to practice hard. It was when I got to university. But I was also a piano teacher in high school, so I really kind of, I was very torn going into the cello. Because I kind of wanted to be a pianist more than be a cellist at that time. But fortunately, conductor of youth orchestra, and he was also the assistant conductor of the Chicago Symphony, told me to quit and go into cello. And I said, okay. But yeah, I loved undergrad. I mean, it was great. I got to be around all kinds of people that had my interests and passion, and that's really where I kind of take off. Yeah, thanks. Anybody else have a question? Yeah, Cliff.
Could you tell us about auditions, perhaps some very influential ones in your life? Perhaps for your orchestra, the Toronto Orchestra, or for college?
Sure. Well, it's funny. Auditions are, you have to kind of expect anything to happen. I've had great auditions and I've had terrible auditions, and everybody has had both. You can just feel like you're in the best shape and totally prepared and relaxed, and then sometimes you go out and you just bomb. Or you can feel like you're totally unprepared and freaked out and go and do really well. So my advice for audition practicing, though, is metronome. Because I'll tell you, like, I can tell somebody who has not practiced with a metronome, and especially getting into an orchestra, for example. If you're auditioning to go into an orchestra, you have to have great rhythm, because nobody wants to suck 10 cellists who are all playing in their own rhythm, right? So rhythm is really, 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 really important in terms of an orchestra. I think just being prepared is the key to playing a great audition. If you don't practice, you're not going to really do well at an audition. Also, but I think be careful that you don't over practice too. Like, there's a possibility of going too far. And you have to have a nice, healthy life and music. And I think that there's you gotta go out and hang out with your friends and do fun things and get away from the cello and, relax your brain and relax your body. Mm-hmm. But I just love slow practice for auditions, especially. Really slow practice, so that like everything just feels good, because you're gonna be nervous at all, right? And that's when you want that muscle memory to kick in, to give you a sort of confidence that maybe your heart is going a little nuts, or you're sweating, or whatever. So as long as you feel prepared, good. And bananas are great. To eat bananas. So bananas are a natural beta blocker. So before I play a concerto, I always eat 2 bananas about 20 minutes before I'm about to go on stage. And I can just feel like, it's just kind of like, just ever so slightly, I feel like my heart and my body kind of calms down a little bit. So that's why you'll see a lot of auditions, people have bananas. Or if you see soloists or singers, they all have bananas, because it just kind of calms you down. And also, I have found that cardio the day of is great. If you have a machine, or you can go to the gym or go running, anything to get like that nervous energy out of your body is super helpful for me. And if you're coffee or caffeine drinkers, no caffeine, or very, very little on the day of your audition. And maybe try to wean it down. I mean, there's all kinds of things, right? But just taking care of your body and your mind before an audition is really great. So just being prepared, and then like eating, sleeping, and being good to yourself.
Well, guys, you learned the most important lesson today. It's banana. Oh, that's so great, Mr. Johnson. We have some questions from some people. Do you have any favorite composer or piece of music?
Yeah, of course. I was telling the group that I love this piece, Scheherazade. I mean, it's amazing. But I have to say, if I'm gonna get in the upper echelon, for me, it's the Beethoven and Bartok string quartets. Are just mind-blowing to me. Any of them, all of them. Bartok string quartets are they're just insane. In the symphonic world, I love Strauss. Strauss is my guy. I love all of his tone poems. I love Don Quixote, my favorite. Maybe I'm a little biased because it's a huge cello project. The guy was way ahead of his time. And I remember Daniel Barenboim saying that Strauss is really just, every note is playable. And when you get an orchestra that's like just grooving and jamming to Strauss, there's really, for me, it's kind of, that's about it. So Strauss is my, but I love, I mean, there's so many composers that I love.
Now, do you ever introduce to your students any modern music post 1980s or something? Any particular composer that?
Post 1980. I mean, I've done a bunch of new concertos that are kind of fun. Actually, I would recommend you guys go check out. Oh my gosh, now I'm going to forget his name. It's a French composer. I'll have to email you.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about it right now off the top of my head, and I'll email you a link to send to the cellist. It's a great new cello concerto. I just played a brand new concerto last year that killed me, technically and physically and emotionally, by a woman, South Korean composer named Eun-suk Chin. And it just was the hardest thing I've ever learned in my life. I was doing all kinds of technical things that I've never done before. And it was an incredibly emotional experience, and it was a really long concerto too, like 40 minutes. Yeah, and it just, I think it aged me. But it was totally worth it. And yeah, she's an incredible composer.
Great.
I anticipate her music getting much more into the public forefront soon. But yeah, definitely modern music is very important, and it's good to be playing new music.
Yeah, another question, what was the first concerto you ever played with an orchestra?
Haydn D major piano concerto.
Piano.
But let's see, cello concerto. I think it was the Elgar.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Forever ago.
Now, having very limited time to practice, how would you approach your practice, and what things are essential to you for effective work?
Well, I just have to practice whatever is coming up on the schedule. And at this point in my career, I have a sixth sense where if there's a piece that's coming that I haven't really done due diligence on, I start to get the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah.
And so once that feeling starts coming, then I know I got to really dive into that piece. But really, that's the one thing I will say. One of the silver linings about this whole coronavirus thing is that I'm able to practice now pieces that I want to practice because everything has been canceled. So I've been practicing like all the Bach suites, like so crazy, and all of these other pieces that I wanted to kind of master, like Elfintance and Pezzo Capriccioso and Hindemith solo sonata and like all this stuff. It's really fun. With no pressure.
Well, that's great. I watch all your class, and it's so helpful for the kids, and we appreciate your time with us today. Kids, do you have any other questions for Mr. Johnson? And any last advice that you could have for these young cellists?
Well, when you guys get back together, which is hopefully soon, I mean, do you guys have you all played in the youth orchestra, or are some of you new?
They've been here for maybe some of them have been here for a number of years, a couple of years, 5 years, 4 years. Some of them are just a year. Yeah.
Okay. I just think like, love what you're doing and be in the moment when you're at rehearsal. And also, like, if sometimes when we play cello in orchestra, it's not the most interesting thing. If we're just going like this for 64 measures, do something to challenge yourself. Play it up here for a while. Or also just, what I like to do is look around at your colleagues, like if somebody has a solo that's going on, and just kind of appreciate what they're doing. And then go up to them. Like, especially the wind players. If the wind players have a solo, it's always nice to hear, like, your solo sounded so beautiful. It's nice to support your colleagues, and that's something you have to do in an orchestra. Orchestra's like a family. It goes a long way, believe me. Because sometimes you'll play something and you think, oh man, that didn't go as well as I want. And then somebody immediately comes up and is like, oh my God, I love that E that you got to. And then all of a sudden they just perk up, and you got to lift each other up. You're a team. So try to just keep the positive environment around you, because it's really important. And it's not always going to be positive, but just try and support your colleagues and your friends. And I don't know, that's my advice. Then you'll be happier longer.
Well, Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for your time. Kids, how about a round of applause? I know we could hear it. Yay, yay, yay. And thank you to everyone who's joined us for this class, and look forward to our class in a couple of weeks, flute class this time. Till then, we'll see you again.
Yeah, good luck, you guys. Keep practicing. Hopefully we'll get out of here someday soon.
We will.
Okay.
Bye.